My name is Jim Moran. This is Procurement League. And today our guest is Zoran Kecman, who is in the Facility Services Industry vertical. And we will be talking about how to handle facility services from a strategic procurement perspective.
Hello and good evening from sunny Dubai. It's March and we are already above 30 degrees. So if anyone wants to warm up a little bit, you are very welcome.
Zoran, at this time, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what your role is, what you do.
Well, okay, professionally, I'm in procurement and supply chain for the past 15 years or so, in different roles ranging from dairy, stainless steel trading. I had a short stint in banking, steel manufacturing, airline catering, and now I'm in facilities management. The last 12 years I have been here in Dubai in my last 3 roles, and currently I am assistant general manager at EFS Facility Services. We like to say for ourselves that we are one of the top 3 facilities management companies in the UAE and among the top 5 in the Middle East, with over 6,000 employees here in UAE and 22,000 worldwide. In my role, I am taking care for all procurement activities of the UAE operations. My team is currently 14 persons, and we take care of everything that is required for the company.
Just to let everybody know, my name is Jim Moran. I am a head of procurement for Buying Simplified, and I also own my own business, doing pretty much the same thing in the supply management space related to the full cycle of strategic sourcing, inclusive of needs identification, supplier relationship management, strategic sourcing, event management and development, negotiation, contract management, and again, supplier relationship management, which I view as so important. Supporting client needs as they identify them and helping clients understand their needs and requirements, developing those requirements, and then acting on those requirements through strategic sourcing. So I spent 20 years in the corporate space learning the trade. Started as a buyer and moved myself all the way up to a senior category management lead. In between that, I've been up and down in terms of whether I was a people manager or a process manager. But when they outsourced that role, I went out on my own. So
Nice.
The vagaries of finance and how organizations view the procurement space. So anyway, we'll dive right into the question since we have a short time today. Zoran, given the breadth of services encompassed under the term facility services, can you discuss how procurement professionals should approach development of requirements internally?
So, as I said in the intro, I spent quite some time in very different industries, and I can tell you that facilities management is the most complex of all businesses I was involved with. If you just see EFS Facility Services offers 75 service lines. So you have a mix, of course, not all we are delivering by ourselves. So you have a mix from arranging multi-million contracts, long-term contracts with vendors, and then all the way down to arranging the pantry requirements, the first aid kits, and the toilet rolls and maxi rolls for the client. So having specialists and specialist knowledge is almost impossible. I should have like 30, 40 people sitting here to have all the knowledge. So we rely on the complete supply chain to deliver. We have to work very closely with our operations team to understand the needs. We have to work, on the other hand, with our vendors, again, very closely to deliver. So it's much more about connecting the dots. It's much more about having interpersonal relationship than having the specialist knowledge of procurement. Then, of course, since we are a multinational company, we have to take care of our ESG goals. We have to take a lot of care about governance. We have local regulations that are in different countries different, which we have to factor in. So in my team, we have developed, after multiple tryouts, we have developed a separation into a strategic, operational, and tactical team, which is a bit unusual. In most of the companies, you will probably have category managers. We tried this way, it did not work. So now we have one team who deals only with long-term contracts. We have one team, which we call the operational team, who deals with the day-to-day requirements that are constant. So we are talking about all the consumables for cleaning, all the consumables for maintenance of a building, everything that where we have repeated orders. And then we have a tactical team, which are basically runners. So something gets broken, they are the ones who almost literally run to the market, find it, buy it, and get it done. And this is the only way it works. We have, beside the team in the head office, in some project we have buyers assigned only to one client, only to one project in the case of large projects. And they are basically the bridge between the requirement of the client and the procurement team. Because if you go by the regular route of setting up the specifications, going through the procurement process until delivery, it simply doesn't work. It takes too much time. And we still want to keep the control over costs as much as possible. So it's, as I said, it's very complex. One size fits all doesn't work here. And the mix of knowledge and experience of the team members must be very different.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense from what you're saying. I mean, you right size your organization to fit the process flow that is the most optimal. And doing so, you're obviously offering a outsourced service to a lot of companies. Why would they outsource? And how comfortable are they with using a plethora of subcontractors? I mean, how in-depth are their requirements for subcontractors from a pass-through perspective of their requirement of compliance?
Well, look, in today's world, everything gets outsourced except your core business. And most of the manufacturing companies basically shrunk back and focused on delivering the value from their core business while outsourcing everything else. Facilities management is one of these cases, and we have clients that literally request us to get the chairs, tables, laptops, IT infrastructure, and everything for them. They just bring in the people and start working. So this is the concept of total facilities management, where as a company owner, you don't want to care about the facility in any view, in any way. So the coffee machines are with us, the pantry is with us, everything, literally everything. Just the people, they belong to the company and they come to work.
And that makes an awful lot of sense as well. But you mentioned earlier, you need to comply with local ESG and sometimes DEI requirements. How in depth do you need to go and extend that to to the subcontractors that you're working with?
Achieving these goals in a facility management company is again a matter of bringing many heads together, because you have a building, so you have the end user of the building, which is the company that rented the premises. Then you have, in some cases, the property management company. So large owners do not engage directly. They have a property management company who has their own interests. Then you have the owner of the building who has his own interests. Then you have us, the facilities management company, and then you have our subcontractors. ESG goals are very often not straightforward. You cannot see the savings, or the savings are long-term, or sometimes the cost even gets increased. And then you are getting into a negotiation with all the stakeholders in order to push a project through. If it's a straightforward saving, it gets easier. But if it's a long-term saving, then really we need to involve everyone up to the owner in order to push these requirements through. The good thing here in the Middle East, ESG goals are very much emphasized by the government itself and very well marketed, so companies are jumping on the bandwagon and actually competing who will do more, which helps us a lot. But still, it takes time and it takes effort to do anything in facilities management.
So you obviously work those requirements then down to your subcontractors to ensure that they provide the appropriate reporting to you so that you can move that back upstream.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that would cover whatever requirements are made by the local government, whatever makes sense from your strategic plan, in order, and as part of your ESG documentation out to the street.
Yeah.
So,
for example, a project of implementing solar panels on a building. So you have to involve a specialist subcontractor who is legally allowed to do this and who is legally allowed here in Dubai to connect the panels to the grid. You cannot do it by yourself. Then you have the building owner who needs to approve significant work on their rooftop. Then you have the tenant who wants to see the savings from all this. So you have to put all of them together in one room and have them all agree on how to do it, what to do, what will be the benefit for each and every of these parties.
yeah, interesting you say it that way, because I remember when I did a solar project in the U.S., one of the biggest impediments to the project was gaining the neighbors' consent.
Well, that is not something I need here, please.
The facility involved they had a big property, and they decided rather than put it on top of the building where all the HVAC was, they had this property at the back of the property, and all they had to do was build a berm around it in order to put the solar panels in. But they also had to put trees on top of that berm because they were removing trees.
Well, okay.
Stuff like that could happen, right?
Yes. Yeah. Luckily, here it's mostly the industrial areas are away from the residential areas, so at least we do not have this kind of problems. But also, as I said, in Dubai, it's very much pushed and supported by the government. So basically, everyone wants to do it as a marketing tool as well.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just using that as an example, I mean, the different elements that you can get into from a particular subcontractor perspective and making sure that you're compliant.
Yeah.
I remember one thing we did. We wanted to make sure we reached out to the FAA because there was an airport nearby, and would the panels being reflective of the sun cause any problems with the airplanes coming into land.
You have to think of so many things and involve so many stakeholders before anything happens.
Okay. Using subcontractors, especially in the facility management space, opens up a lot of opportunities related to the human element and what procurement does. Can you briefly outline the social side of outsourcing and its benefits to the communities in which companies are located?
Well, yes, you have the positives and the negatives, of course. By involving subcontractors, we are basically allowing SMEs to get jobs that they would not get directly with the client. Especially, we have contracts with multinational companies whose head offices are not here, and they give facilities management contracts only to multinational companies for their own risk coverage, and because they cannot micromanage FM companies in each and every country they operate. So by giving away, we are basically helping the local community to develop SMEs. We have companies who are working for us as subcontractors who are literally startups, companies with 3 or 5 people specialized in one specific service, and they do their job. The negative part on this is that we are not able to control the labor conditions of all of our subcontractors. Here in the Middle East, this is a topic that gets highlighted every now and then, and we are working constantly with our subcontractors to ensure that all the laws are maintained, that everything is done as per the local regulations. However, it is a risk that we cannot mitigate fully, no matter what, because we cannot be everywhere as well.
Yeah, and I would believe that in other areas of the world, those requirements are actually put on the prime to make sure that is compliant.
Yes, I mean, we do insist on proper documentation. We do insist on compliance with the laws. We do checks. However, as I said, it is still a risk, a higher risk than compared to having our staff working. Then we would be 100% compliant.
Reports and what have you. Those reports, are they focused primarily on that entity's contribution to your project that they were brought on board for, or is it kind of in total?
No, we are trying. So when we are auditing a company, we are auditing a company as a total, because we do not want to focus only on people who are working on our projects. We want to focus on all people. We are a facilities management company. Out of 6,000 people in the UAE, more than 5,000 people are front line workers. So the cleaners, the porters, the security staff, and we pride ourselves being a people first organization and caring deeply for 80% of our workforce that brings in at the end of the day 100% of our revenue. So the same culture we are trying to impose to our subcontractors as well.
So for each project, do you then do like an economic impact study of the benefits to the community that you're going to be servicing when you start a new project? And if so, then do you then communicate that out as part of your brand message?
We do not measure it as such, because our audits are, as of now, on compliance. Is the company compliant or not? This is something we still have to develop and work on, as we are growing massively right now, and it's a bit tricky to have
No. I mean, it's never fully accurate, but certainly based on You could estimate, I think, tax benefits of hiring, whether it's through subcontractors or through yourself, and what kind of impact that would be on the community from those salaries, and how much more those people be able to afford and contribute to the economy of that area, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all high level estimation, what have you. But just on a general, you might do a percentage or something like that.
Yeah, on a company level, yes. On a project level, we are still not
monitoring. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. Moving on from that, could you briefly outline the social side of outsourcing and community benefits that might occur as a result?
So, I mean, as I said, first of all, we are doing outsourcing for a practical reason. We cannot possibly cover all the services, all the legal requirements of each and every service that exists. So it's a practical solution. Secondly, this way we are supporting small and medium companies that are here in the country. So in every of the 22 countries where we operate, we use only local companies. We do not bring companies from abroad. We do not import. We try to use and utilize everything that is in country. So only a very, very small portion of very special services are brought from outside the countries. And we are owned locally as well. So we pride ourselves as a local company who does everything locally.
Okay. And there's certain benefits to that would accrue to any organization. So it makes a lot of sense.
Well, we had very little supply chain issues during COVID and after COVID, I have to say this. Because most of it was sourced locally. So we didn't have too many
that probably helped an awful lot rather than trying to find alternative sources.
Yes.
Yeah, and certain areas did better at it than others, obviously, depending on the controls that they had in place. I want to thank you for your time today, Zoran. We're almost out of time, but last thoughts?
Well, we discussed a lot about facilities management, and it's an industry that nobody really sees until something goes wrong. Therefore, working in procurement is really a challenge. I'm telling to my team over and over that working here in EFS Facility Services is a procurement university. After this, every other procurement job will look as a very easy one. Things change so fast. We are getting new projects, new clients, and every project is unique. We are maintaining schools, we are maintaining office buildings, we are maintaining hospitals, we are maintaining airports, we are maintaining so many different establishments with so different stakeholders. And it's really challenging, but a lot of fun.
Sounds like it. And I've had some exposure to facility services during my career in the last corporate organization I was with. And it is very interesting. You talked about the different services, and I've handled a lot of them, even to the point of warehouse racking and removing old warehouse racking and getting value for it and replacing it with upgraded, new standard, compliant racking to the changed requirements from a zoning perspective or what have you. So, it certainly is dynamic, even more so than indirect services as a whole. But it is a great learning environment.
Indeed, we had requests to organize a party with ice cream. We had requests to move out the furniture and keep it in a rented warehouse for a month. We had, what else was the strange requirements that we had? the RFID business cards, catering services of all kinds on a Friday evening for a Saturday morning. And then, of course, if something shuts down, we were also the facilities management company for Expo 2020 in Dubai. So you can only imagine how much stress was this, managing such an event that is recorded by everyone, and then an elevator for 40 person stops working. And the installer comes and cannot fix it for 6 hours. And everyone is sweating around. So all these kinds of situations happened, but as I said, most of the days it's fun.
The dynamic of it is being able to think on your feet, which is one of the critical elements in procurement.
And work as a connector. You simply have to keep connecting people, connecting ideas, connecting requirements in order to figure out what do they actually want sometimes.
Yeah, developing those relationships is key to success.
True, very true, very true.
In developing those relationships, developing the trust.
Again, it goes with time, with many delivered projects, with many delivered requirements. We are getting more and more requirements from the operations teams where they were earlier doing it by themselves. Now they are relying more and more on us because they have trust that we can do it faster than them, cheaper than them, and we can deliver what they actually need.
Like I said, we're right up against the timeline. I want to thank you again. Very insightful and thoughtful with your responses and your discussions around how facility services outsourcing truly works and the benefits to society that it could bring.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much,
My pleasure.
and have a great week and a great weekend.